Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Daily Ramble here on Claret and Booze. My name's Gary, fresh back from holiday, just in time to go and see West Ham last night. The last 16 against Larnaca, and just in time as well to see the draw for the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, which have just finished. So I'm going to take you through those. We'll reflect on the draw and how far I think we're going to get. Talk briefly about Larnaca last night because it was a good night out, to be fair. A few words on Chris Sutton, who is the mug of the week, and also a few comments at the end on Crystal Palace sacking Patrick Vieira, another team that's acted rather than sitting on their hands. So first and foremost, let's keep it positive and let's talk about the draw. So there are 8 teams left in it, as we all know, and I'm sure you know as well. I'm sure you watched the draw, and we were picked out as quarterfinal number 2. So I'll go through them in order. Quarterfinal 1 was Lech Poznan versus Fiorentina. Quarterfinal 2 was us, which is Ghent versus West Ham. So I think that means they would be at home first, unless I'm wrong. Quarterfinal 3 is AZ Alkmaar against Anderlecht. Anderlecht, who we've, I think, beaten twice already. And quarterfinal 4, Basel versus Nice. So the initial reaction is that is a fantastic draw for the quarterfinal. That is really, really good. I mean, if we look again, let me just look up the how they're doing Ghent in the Belgium league. I mean, they're doing better than Anderlecht. They're 5th in the Belgian league. The Belgian league's not particularly a strong league, by the way. And their overall, their UEFA coefficient, their ranking in UEFA is very close to ours, actually. They're ranked 51. We're ranked 48. So very, very close. Anderlecht, surprisingly, ranked 113. So Ghent. I've heard of Genk. I haven't really heard of Ghent before. So I'm kind of surprised that they're rated so highly. It's another one that seems to have come out of left field. Anyway, I think if you look at those draws, we've done really well to avoid who I would consider anyway to be the strong team or strong teams left in the competition, and that would be AZ Alkmaar. Definitely, there's standouts. Reminded me in a lot of ways of Frankfurt from last year, being the standout team, and also FC Basel against Nice. Now we want to avoid those as well. So they also draw. They didn't only draw the quarterfinal; they drew the semi-final as well. And here's where it gets a little bit darker. But look, you can't play rubbish teams all the way through the competition, can you? So I think we'll get through Ghent. I think we'll scrape through that draw. By the way, none of these teams left in it are mugs. This is where the competition gets real, right? This is where credibility starts applying to the Conference League. I mean, up until now, we've won 10 out of 10 games. I mean, that's really unheard of. We haven't even drawn a game. We've won every single game. And a lot of them, you've got to be honest, have been at a canter, right? Now, that either shows you the weakness of the opposition or it shows you the superiority of the Premier League over most other leagues in Europe. And I suspect it's a mixture of both. But in the semi-final, this is where it becomes a lot harder because AZ Alkmaar, and to put it in, give you a bit of context on why I say Alkmaar are doing well, they're the standout team, is they're 3rd in the Dutch league at the moment, behind only Feyenoord and Ajax, and they're above PSV. They're doing really well. They are winning a hell of a lot of games. They've got some very strong players, and they appear to have pace as well, which is something we don't really get on with. But anyway, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And in this competition, I consider AZ Alkmaar to be the best. Closely followed, if you look at if you're looking for a wild card here, you'd probably look at Nice, who are not doing well in their league, 7th in Ligue 1, as they say in France, ranked 116 in the UEFA coefficient. But they would probably be, that could be, you can look at that and say it could be a Frankfurt. So if you remember last year, Frankfurt's league form was pretty rubbish. They put all of their eggs into the Europa League basket. And you could be seeing that with one or two of these teams when you look at where they are in the league. So what I'm saying is we don't really know what we're going to get with any of these other than Anderlecht. I mean, we've beaten them at a canter twice already. And let's see, that'll give us, I suppose, a really good benchmark because we know how good, how we fare against Anderlecht. Let's see how they fare against AZ Alkmaar, and that'll give us, a real good benchmark to see whether we do have something to fear in the next round or not. I must take a bit more of an interest in them now and go and watch their last game and see how they, see how they played. Okay, moving on to last night. About 40,000 inside the stadium last night. A really, really good, positive atmosphere. Flying in the face of everything that's been said in the media while I've been away. Clearly, my own positivity has been missing from the stadium, and so that's why David Sullivan told his mates in the media to have a go at the fans, redirect all of the anger away from the crappy performances to the fans. Great idea. But surprised they didn't think of it earlier. There was a full away section. The Cypriots were there in force. They only let them in the upstairs bit. So they had nobody downstairs. They were all sectioned off. And I think, I don't know whether they've caused trouble before or whatever. I wouldn't have thought so. And I wonder how many of them travelled from Cyprus and how many were from Palmer's Green. But, either way, they did well. They held their scarves up in unison at one point, which looked quite effective. But let's be honest, we won that at a canter. It was a walk in the park. I know they had a man sent off, but we were pretty much all over them before then as well. If you look at, I had them down as farmers and bakers. They're not really. I mean, we've beaten a sort of average European team there. Again, looking at the UEFA coefficient, AEK Larnaca, 142nd. I mean, that's out of a lot of teams, but bear in mind, Anderlecht 113th. I mean, I'm not saying these rankings mean anything. It's kind of to do with how, but you do have to win games in Europe to get yourself up the UEFA coefficients, and that's not a bad level for Larnaca to be. I thought they'd be much, much lower than that, seeing them on the pitch. I thought Scamacca did really well last night, and he looked quite happy as well. It was a bit of a lucky goal that went under the keeper to start with. And then Bowen followed up on another Scamacca shot in the second half before the best goal by a mile. I mean, pure quality from Bowen, across him from Cresswell. And he's just arched his neck and, looped a header into the far corner. You don't see goals like that, do you? What a great finish. What a fantastic finish from him. And then we saw, a really good, a really lovely finish from Devin Mabama. So I'm struggling with his name. He came on and I've always liked him. I first saw him at Brentford, and he looks really, he wanted to get involved. He wanted to, make runs, make himself available for the ball. And he did very much the same thing last night. And it was a quality little finish from him, actually, little back heel into the net. So really pleased for him. And he was delighted in the post-match interview, which he did with Jared Bowen. He comes across as a really nice kid. And also there was another post-match interview that I watched last night as well, and that was with Scamacca. Now, Scamacca got taken off on the 53rd minute. I was a bit annoyed, I must admit, that he got taken off. I'd like to have seen him play the full game because he was looking pretty good. But swings and roundabouts, Mabama came on and got a goal, etc. But him and Paqueta, who got taken off at the same time, so Scamacca and Paqueta got taken at the same time, they were over the opposite side of the pitch from the tunnel, and they did the usual of doing a slow walk around to the tunnel, and so they had to walk past the Bobby Moore lower, and everybody in the Billy Bond stand gave him a massive round of applause, and also in the Bobby Moore stand as well. We didn't let up either. Did it the whole way across, and they looked really happy with it. And it's something that Scamacca mentioned in his post match comments, which I thought was really nice. His post match comments I thought were really positive. This is a guy where English is not his first language, but he speaks it very well. And so sometimes you can see him processing when a question's being asked. You can see him doing the translation and working it out. So there's a bit of a delayed response. But that didn't stop Chris Sutton having a dig at Scamacca, saying, he looks so bloody miserable, playing into the narrative that has been set down last week by David Moyes in that he doesn't train very hard. And it's like, Chris Sutton is just full of shit. And if you look at Danny Murphy as well, Danny Murphy, who last week, he doesn't take an interest in West Ham. He doesn't watch West Ham very often. But last week, what he decided to say was there's nobody better than Moyes, right? I don't know what, Moyes has got such a cozy relationship with these people in the press. But I want to end this on a high note. So I just want to, this is something that was shared with me last night. It's a meme. Sorry, I haven't got a copy to flash it up here now, but it's a meme. And it says, it's about Danny Murphy. It says, if I was stuck on a desert island with Danny Murphy and a tin of corned beef floated by, I'd eat Danny Murphy and chat to the corned beef. Says it all, really, doesn't it? See, there's a serious message in there, isn't there? He talks crap. So, end of another team have acted. They've acted quickly, swiftly. Well, I wouldn't say quickly or swiftly, actually. They've left it late. They've got 11 games to go. But Crystal Palace have fired Patrick Vieira. I mean, Vieira in the last 3 games, 0 shots on target in 3 games. I mean, my God, that makes David Moyes look footloose and fancy free. That is grim. I mean, that is proper grim. I'm surprised they've waited so long. And there's a point here because that's 3 former midfield giants of the Premier League that have been sacked this season in Gerrard, Fat Frank Lampard, and Patrick Vieira, right? 3 top-class players in their day. Well, it kind of hints that perhaps being a top-class player doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a top-class manager, does it? So perhaps people should stop looking at the logos, stop looking at the brand, and start looking at the quality, because there's all sorts of things that are much more important than being a good player if you're going to be a manager. Can you coach? Can you communicate? Can you manage a team of egos, a team of men who you're barely older than? If you literally retired in the last 5 years, I realise Vieira is slightly different. He's slightly older, but there are notable exceptions to this. Top players like Dalglish and Keegan who have gone on to do well, but really, when you think about their success, it was built upon having a limitless budget. And none of these 3 have had a limitless budget. I mean, even when Lampard was at Chelsea, he had that season where he wasn't allowed to spend anything. Yeah, it's funny enough, that was his best season, because the following season, when he could spend, it all went wrong, which kind of disproves my theory. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to get one of these, big name ex-pros, you've got to give them one of the easier jobs with the big clubs and the limitless budget. Otherwise, it's very unlikely they're going to do well. And there are people like who surprise me, like Scott Parker. Go back into our history, Billy Bonds. He wasn't a great manager, was he? I mean, I realise he got, it depends on who you listen to, but he got screwed over by Harry. But he wasn't the best manager. I think we all knew it. We all knew it deep down. And so it's surprising, but it's a different skill set. It's a different skill set. When will these clubs realise that just having a big name and a big brand is not enough to be successful? Anyway, having said that, Michael Carrick, who I wouldn't class as one of the big glamorous names, he was a very successful footballer, and he got through all of the donkey work for the team and everything else, and he's working wonders at Middlesbrough now. I'll take him in a heartbeat. So again, I suppose I'm just being really hypocritical here in saying this, but hey, there are no rules with these rambles. Finally, I'd like to finish and say a big thank you to all of you viewers out there, because we've reached 5,000 subscribers in 18 months since we launched the channel here on Claret and Booze. Big thanks to all of you for your support, all of your great feedback. Myself, John, and Nick, we really enjoy doing this. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. And we look forward to doing more and growing this channel over the coming years with your support. So again, thank you very much. On that note, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon. It helps us a lot. It's really all we do it for. Until next time, see you soon, and come on, you irons.